Hi, I'm Aimee Gordon, Director of Communications for the Peninsula School District. Yesterday, Governor Inslee announced his adoption of the CDC's updated guidance about the amount of physical space between students in a classroom, which changes from 6 feet to 3 feet. I'm here today with Superintendent Jarvis to talk about what this means for our district. Good morning, Dr. Jarvis.
Good morning, Amy.
So how did you feel yesterday when you heard the news from Governor Inslee?
It was a huge day for us. As you know, we have been requesting that the governor consider following the CDC rule to change the 6 foot to 3 foot. That opens the door to our planning for the fall that we've been just working diligently, but worrying about the fact that the 6 foot would continue to put us in a position that we couldn't do what we want to do. We want to bring our kids back. We want to have things as close as we can get them to normal. And that 3 foot became really the key to the fall and the fall planning. So first was instant joy.
And then what happened?
Then, as you could tell from my tone, came the complications of people who will want to do that right away.
Why don't you try to explain some of the complications that we see with changing from 6 foot to 3 foot? And as I understand it, it's not just 3 foot across the board either.
As you read the materials coming from the governor and the office of the state superintendent of schools interpreting that, one of the huge differences that became a challenge within minutes was realizing the 6 foot applied to students, but it did not apply to the adults, the teachers and other adults in the schools. So if you will, for just a moment, picture the typical interaction in the classroom in which students can now be within 3 feet of each other and desks, but the teacher can't. Picture some of the work that also goes in the definition that applies to a more general classroom and a more general student interaction, but it does not apply to things like PE or music or lunch. Buses are questionable in terms of how to make that work, and quite the challenge for transportation. So you have this 3 foot that starts to erode in its flexibility.
How would this impact the other safety protocols that we have in place?
The reason that you could drop to a 3 foot separation is that all of the other safety protocols are working. They're in place and they must be maintained. Take our 3rd through 5th grade, where we have half the students coming in the morning and half in the afternoon. It would seem so simple to just put those two halves together and have kids go full day. But the reality is we have instantly doubled the number of students coming in the door with attestation forms and having their temperature taken. So picture the lineup that's now out in the parking lot and has the cars out into the streets, et cetera. The sheer numbers defeat us by trying to take those two hybrids and put them together at this springtime. The related piece to that is when you take the temperature, you have the attestation form. We've certainly seen that there will be kids who show up and they test positive or they have a fever or something. As soon as that happens, all of the other safety mechanisms kick into place. Everybody in the world, I think, has become familiar with close contact rules. If you were to be found to have a temperature or to test positive, our contact would be tested and how close we were, whether I was in close contact and needed to be quarantined. That burden has really largely fallen to the school staff, and we worked out a way of doing that within the numbers. But as soon as you shift that to double the numbers or more, you've put the staff in a position that a student who doesn't have a form or a student who has a temperature immediately multiplies numerically, takes staff to deal with, and we become again so disrupted we can't make it work. So ingress, egress, face masks, how they walk, what direction they walk, how they walk and how far apart they are, etc., is all part of what has to stay in place in order to make the 3 foot work.
So what can you tell us about planning for the fall?
The plan is to return kids to an in-person option in the fall as close as you can imagine to normal school, full-size groups. I don't know exactly what that means yet, because we're going to have to get more rules and know how to set it up. But in essence, we're trying to set up, move out of the hybrid system into a system that has children and staff doing more normal things in school. We'll also continue some of the things for those students and families for whom online works best. We've lost some kids in our public school systems, including our own, who are now either on the streets, they may be homeschooled, they may be whatever. But for some of those kids who may be on the street, we need to find ways to recover them. We need to find ways to re-engage them. So we're creating programs, we're extending programs, we're expanding our thinking of what summers will look like, we're expanding our options on our alternative programs. I think over the next month we'll be able to roll those out and send to you as a parent. These are the options that face you for the fall.
So it sounds like there won't be a change to our current learning models for this spring.
If I've learned anything this year, it's to hold my breath and see what happens next in an announcement out of the governor's office or somewhere else. But assuming that nothing changes from where we are right now, the 3 foot becomes a minimum requirement, but not a requirement this spring. The 3 foot does require, start summer and fall, that will replace the 6 foot. We're looking at the last roughly 10 weeks of school and trying to carry out what we have spent all year designing. So I would say the short answer is yes, you will not see any major changes. Parents have had to make some tremendous adjustments, but I'm not going to try to throw them any more curves that in the month of May they have to change something they've been doing and find new babysitters or different hours. I guess lastly, I want to give a kudo to our staff. This spring, and again, they worked so hard. The biggest smile I think I've ever seen on teachers' faces is doing what they're doing right now, like coming out of what they've come out of and making it work for themselves and for kids. Frankly, I have no interest in throwing them a curve or change all the hard work that went into creating the balance that we have for safety of staff and safety of students.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
You are welcome.